There are many popular computer languages in use today. How do you pick the one that is right to learn first or for your next project? Toastmaster of the day, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. I've been asked that question a lot, mostly from younger people who want to know what to start programming in, but also from mature people considering a career shift. My answer is that it depends on what you want to do with the language. That is, what kind of program you want to write. This chart shows the most popular programming languages from a survey of programmers in 2023. But instead of simply picking the most popular language, my advice is to pick a language based on your project. Like any other tool, programming languages have strengths and weaknesses. And as you would use the best tool for the job, so you should try to pick the best programming language suited for your project. Let's start by looking at things primarily focused on the web. Originally, a web browser was only able to show a document with links to other documents. There was no animation, and documents were always the same. The first innovation came when designers realized that when someone asked for a document, they could create the document on the fly and produce a different document each time you asked. This could display the time, the weather, stock market quotes, and much other useful information. The second innovation came by having the program run on the computer, displaying the data in the web browser. This allows animation, menus, and further user interface features we have all become familiar with. For example, you may have seen on the Toastmasters website that there's animation going on here, and down here, the colors change, and if I click here, it's changing the web page as we speak without loading a full new web page. If your project will involve things moving on a web page, called the front end, then JavaScript is probably the best choice for you. This includes web games, but also includes menus, updating charts, and many other things that move on web pages. JavaScript is a scripting language, which means it is less suited for large projects, but is better suited for smaller tasks. Most modern web browsers understand JavaScript, which makes it the language of choice for web manipulation. However, JavaScript is not usually found in other places, so if it is the only language you know, it can be harder to do other things. If your web page can be formed at the server before it is sent to be displayed and relies less on user interaction, this is called the backend. If this is what you want to do, then PHP may be a good choice. This is good for displaying data in a database or updating a database, and many projects use a combination of PHP to generate the web page and then use JavaScript to have it change as the user interacts with it. If you will be doing either of these things, the front end or the back end, it will probably help to know HTML and CSS. These are not programming languages, but rather computer languages that describe what a web browser should display. That is, they don't cause actions or make decisions, but they allow you to describe what your web page will contain and how it will look. HTML is the native language of web browsers and is the basis for describing a web page. CSS works with HTML to customize how things should look. For example, HTML will generally contain the text of your web page, and CSS would describe what color and font it should use, as well as details about how to place it on the page. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets but most people using them don't remember what they stand for most of the time. Although they are separate languages, they're typically used together. If you need your project to be as fast as possible, you could consider writing it in assembly language. You might need to use assembly language to do something intended to your specific machine. However, it is very hard to write assembly language compared to the other languages, and programs written in assembly will only run on the machines they are intended for. I've used assembly language for some projects, and it can be challenging but rewarding. Notice that assembly language is well down on this list, down here. So it is not as popular as other languages. I consider assembly language to be analogous to driving with stick shift in a car. It takes much more work, but you get better results because you have much more control over everything. Even if you don't use it regularly, assembly language is a good language to know because all other languages need to use assembly language to work. That is, the direct language of the computer, also known as machine language. If you don't need as fast as possible, and really fast is good enough, then usually a better choice is to use C or C++, which are closely related. These are general purpose languages, which means they are suitable for doing a wide variety of things. It is much easier to write C and C++ than assembly, and the programs run almost as fast. This is the language most operating systems themselves, such as Windows and Linux, are written in. These programs are also easier to move from one hardware system to another, unlike assembly language. That is why this is the choice for many commercial software programs. Much of my work is in C++ now, and was when I was at Microsoft and writing programs for NASA. If speed isn't your primary concern, and the project may be a large one, you should consider languages like Java or C#. Both of these are easier to write than C++ and will still run pretty fast. The advantage of Java is that it is easier to get to work on many different operating systems, such as Windows, Mac, and Linux. On the other hand, C# is primarily for Windows, but because of this, it can usually run faster there. Both Java and C# can help generate web pages on a server and are called general purpose languages because they can do much more. I've spent a lot of time programming in both of these, and the languages are very similar, but I prefer C# as I find it has added many things to make programming easier. But it seems that Java is used in more government projects. Note that Java and JavaScript have very little in common other than their name, and that they both got started as languages for web browsers. If you will be writing programs for Android phones or tablets, you'll probably be writing them in Java. On the other hand, if you will be writing programs for Apple iPhones or iPads, then Objective-C is the main choice. That's way down here. Now I will talk about scripting languages. Scripting languages are usually even easier to write in than Java and C#, but typically do not run as fast. Scripting languages are usually best for analyzing and manipulating text and files. They often take less time between editing the program and being able to run them, making them great for trying things out. And they will usually run on many different operating systems. Because they do not run as fast, they are typically better for things that only need to run a few times a day or less, or where no one is waiting for the results, or where it is so short anyway, adding a little more time won't be a problem. But with modern computers, programs in these languages are still pretty fast. Some companies will prototype their programs using a scripting language because it's faster to try things out, and then when it's working, rewrite it in another language I've already mentioned. Python, Ruby, and Perl are good scripting languages. Python is easier to write. Ruby is better for larger projects and has many tools for dealing with web servers. Perl is best for manipulating text and files, and you can often write very short programs that can do a lot. But Perl is harder to learn. I've written some fun programs in Perl, but unfortunately, it seems to be on its way out in terms of popularity. It's now way down here, and it used to be way up here. Microsoft, like many other companies, uses Perl for their programs behind the scenes that assemble their commercial programs. R, Scala, and Haskell are even better for trying things out, especially things related to mathematics or statistics. Two newer languages are Rust and Go. I've not used either of these yet, but I have read about Rust. Rust is supposed to be as fast as C++, but the language is designed to avoid most mistakes programmers generally make in C++, so Rust programs are guaranteed not to crash. Recently, the White House recommended that programmers use Rust for this reason, but this does appear to make it harder to program in. My sons use Go, but I don't know much about it other than it was created by Google. Another computer language is called SQL, Structured Query Language, spelled SQL, but pronounced SQL. Again, this is not a programming language, but is a computer language designed for talking to a database. It is easy to get started with SQL, but it has many advanced features for trying to get exactly the data you need from a large collection of data. For example, you can use it to ask, what is the average salary of salespeople in our company in the Northwest region that have sold more than $1 million in the first quarter of this year? To be braggadocious, when I was at Microsoft, they had hired a contractor to write a program in C#. He had been working on it for 6 months and still wasn't done. It was expected to take a few more months. Soon after I learned this, I wrote the program for them in just 1 week using Perl instead of C#. This may be an extreme example, but it demonstrates the advantages of using the right language for the job. Currently, there was a lot of material here. I hope this has given you a good overview of the various programming languages currently in popular use and helped to steer you to the right one for your next project. I will now take questions, and so if you have a question, please raise your hand. Scott.
Well, I have a couple questions. But first question, your graphics showing the popularity of the different program languages. What's the source and the timeline for that? How current is that popularity chart?
So if I've stopped sharing it, I could scroll up. This is a survey from Stack Overflow, and it is 2023, so it is fairly current.
Okay. The other thing is, I noticed Swift was down there towards the bottom, but it was higher than, I think, Objective-C. Swift is for iOS, right? Or for Mac or iOS. Is that right?
I'm actually not familiar with Swift.
Yeah,
I
I
know
think that
Objective-C is for the iPhones and iPads. If Swift could be for the Mac, it may be one of the fairly newer ones.
right. I think it came on out, but I thought it was for. So I was wondering what I didn't see the chart. I don't see the chart, but is that up? Is that higher or lower than Objective-C?
So Swift is here, and Objective-C, I think, was lower, down
Yeah, it's
here.
way down there. Okay, yeah. So I think that's the more current. So just
So
how come?
I think it's that there are more Macintoshes, and I guess then people writing it's not the number of applications, but actually the number of people writing applications for those things, whether you're writing it for a Mac or the program is writing apps for iPhone. I
Thank
think
you.
that's what this is a function of. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Thank you. Did I see another hand? Yishai.
Actually, we both have questions, but I'll let
Okay.
Yishai ask first.
For the AI, for example, or ChatGPT, how would you do it? Because it has to go into like the internet and get courses from there and then put it all together. So how?
So I think you're far away from the microphone. I can hear your
Oh,
question is about AI.
so do you
And
want to get closer?
I'll get closer.
that's not better.
That's not better. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very clearly,
Yeah.
but
He was asking for something like ChatGPT, AI in general, given all the functions that it has, how exactly is that programmed?
so ChatGPT, I'm not sure exactly what they use, but I believe it is based on Python and scripting, and then actually a lot of the vector calculations are done in assembly and some on specialized chips. So it's a combination of languages and tools for the various things. Then to use it, people are adding it to their own programs, and they have libraries so that you can add and add intelligence to your own that I've seen done in Java, in Python, in other languages to use the chat GPT like the output. But then what it's running in the behind the scenes, I'm not sure exactly what they wrote it in, but I suspect it's multiple languages.
So my question is, and it seems to be from the graph that you were showing, has there been a calculation, or on average, how many languages does a programmer need to know, or in general just happens to learn in order to perform their job? Or is it possible for a programmer to actually just have one and kind of have a niche, or do they really need to know more than one language?
Many programmers know just one. They'll learn that, they'll get good at that, and that's their specialization. And that's good enough. They'll focus on one of the types of applications that I discussed, or they might have C# or Java, which is a general purpose, and they can write lots of different types of programs using just that one language. So that is a fairly typical programmer to know just one. And
Okay.
if they know they're doing web programming, they might just know JavaScript. But so I found I've more employment opportunities by knowing more languages.
Thanks.
Okay, Rachel?
Yes. We'll start with you said Pearl, I think, is on its way out.
Unfortunately,
Yeah, why is that?
yes, I did say that. And I'm not showing the screen, but it's way down. It was not on the first page of the list.
I guess the question is there a reason why? Is there like trends in the programs?
You could say trends. As I said, it is hard to learn. I liked it because once you do learn it, it's very powerful, but because it was hard to learn and people are generally using more easier languages to learn, like Python now is generally replacing what Perl used to do.
Okay, I
or
see.
be used for.
Oh, I see. And if no one else has a question, I just have one more.
Yeah.
Why would Apple and Android use two different programs?
Well, they were
That means, yeah,
because they were developed by two different companies.
I got it.
And I think Android or Google purposely picked a language that was more, at the time, Java was much more well known. And instead of having it being a barrier, that, as you saw, only a few people are using Objective-C, it's harder to learn. So instead of having a specific language just for that, the language actually did exist before Apple, and I'm not sure exactly why they picked it, but it was sort of an obscure language then. And why make a language obscure that you have to learn for your program? Android, Google picked a more common language, I think, hoping to get more programmers to use it. And did that answer your question?
I see. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Rowan.
First off, Andy, thank you for compiling this presentation for us. My question is, for a precocious high school student who's interested in science, technology, engineering, what might be the first programming language you would encourage them to learn?
I would encourage something easy to learn like Python, a scripting language. And with that, thank you very much. And this has been a pleasure. Back to you.